the way Kenner Abbey and Happy Hoffman touch my soul and elevate my spirits. It's a meditation on kindness, one that I hope I can do now as we delve into the Torah portion, but I'm going to start off with a joke. And the good news is, you've laughed at the beginning of the joke, so I already got my laugh. This is the joke. It's a joke about some guys who played their usual Sunday morning basketball game at the JCC. One morning in the middle of the game, a cell phone started ringing and ringing and ringing. So one guy runs over, picks up the phone, and while the others look on, they could hear a woman on the other end of the phone. And she said, "Hi, I wanted to call and let you know that I went shopping today and I bought myself a new wardrobe." And the man responds, "Okay." The onlookers were impressed by the man's support of this shopping spree. Then she continues, "And on the way home, I passed the Mercedes dealership, and I said, you know what? It's time I get a new car." And the man responds, "Uh-huh." Again, he didn't flinch, and the others look on, and they're quite surprised and even startled at this point. And she continues. She says, "Oh, and one more thing. On the way home, I realized I really deserve a 2-week Hawaii vacation. And so I booked myself a first-class ticket out starting tomorrow." Again, the man's reaction was, "Okay, got it." Everyone's stunned. And then what happens? The man picks up the phone high above his head and says, "Hey, whose phone is this?" So, of course, the others are awestruck by the benevolence, the kindness. You're hearing a theme? The unlimited kindness that this man, they thought, was sharing with this lucky woman. However, this type of unlimited love and boundless benevolence is just one aspect of chesed, of kindness, often translated either as kindness or steadfast love, and it appears 248 times throughout the Torah. This is a model of love that God has for us, and a model of love we too hope to emulate in our interactions with one another. But the person answering the phone, giving permission to this wild and reckless spending, was not being kind. They weren't being flexible. He wasn't being a mensch. He was being careless. Because he didn't really care. Often an irresponsible pushover is casually referred to as a nice guy. You might be surprised to learn that the etymology, the origin of the word nice, is to not know, to be ignorant, even impotent or stupid, an ignoramus, weak. And while today we use the word nice as a wonderful adjective to describe someone who is kind and pleasant, I urge us for a moment to take a deeper look at the difference between being nice and being kind. Sometimes being nice means that we will not take a stance. Sometimes being nice means we would rather be viewed as the nice guy, the nice gal, rather than upsetting others, even if that means we can't live with integrity or show our moral backbone or step into that moral fortitude to do what is right. Now hear me carefully. Our Torah demands that we pursue peace, to be a rodef shalom in our family and with our friends and our neighbors and our colleagues. That's why the Talmud says that a Torah has to be written either with a flexible reed or a feather, a writing instrument that's bendable, because a Torah-inspired life and living Jewish values should not make one rigid and harsh. That's from the Talmud. Instead, we need to be flexible, know when to be lenient, and how to be resilient. This is the true source of our strength, the wisdom behind Jewish endurance, and the secret of how this tiny people can be a force for good in the world. Doing what is right, keeping your word, setting expectations, and maintaining your integrity need not be mitigated. Rather, it should be done and complemented with kindness, with chesed, with gimilut chasadim. In fact, that's the key takeaway from our Torah portion this week. Bereshit, the very beginning of Genesis, is all about chesed, kindness. It's more than how God created the world in 6 days and rested on the Sabbath. It's about what happens in the 3rd chapter. It's about how God relates to Adam and Eve after they mess up, after they do not follow God's clear instruction. God doesn't give in. He doesn't backtrack. He doesn't go soft on the consequences. There is a consequence, and Adam and Eve are thrown out, or I'd like to say escorted out of the Garden of Eden. They will be forever changed, and now they have to face life as mortal beings. And yet, God is still kind. And that is what is so remarkable. This is what's so Jewish. In fact, our sages teach that the Torah begins with acts of chesed, benevolence, and ends with the act of chesed. And what's the proof? It begins with an act of chesed from our Torah portion, where God makes for Adam and Eve clothing to clothe their naked bodies. And the Torah ends with acts of kindness when God, according to our tradition, personally buries Moses, a type of chesed referred to as a chesed shel emet, the highest form of kindness, because it's a kindness that can never be repaid. It's one we do with the best intentions, knowing that that person can never pay us back for what we have done to them. You see, kindness, chesed, it's not just at the heart of the Torah. For us, it's the lens for how we read the entire Torah, how we apply Jewish values from the beginning all the way to the end. Chesed and acts of kindness, it's not just a service project for kids or volunteers who have extra time. It's what God makes time to do. In the middle of God's busy day, God goes out of his way, or her way, to do gimilut chasadim, these acts of kindness. And according to the rabbis, and you all might be familiar with this, it is one of the pillars on which the world stands. Al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Kindness, it's foundational to the day-to-day operation of our world. And these aren't random acts of kindness. These are focused, intentional, premeditated acts of kindness. And notice this, in both cases, whether it was Adam and Eve or Moses, God is at the same time executing justice. Remember, they were both punished in some ways. Adam and Eve were punished and kicked out. Moses was punished by not being allowed into the land. And even though they have to face the consequences of their actions, despite that, nevertheless, God extends holy kindness. This is a model of chesed, what kindness really should look like, even when we have to deal with people that arguably deserve punishment or the consequences that they're facing. In both cases, chesed restores dignity to those who are vulnerable. Clothing the naked and burying the deceased exemplified to what degree we are responsible to others. We can show kavod, respect, and dignity to each child of God, especially to those who live with us and are closest to us. Sadly, sometimes we're the least kind to family members and close friends, and we even sometimes hold grudges, forgetting that we can set expectations, follow through with them, and still be kind. Together, like the psalmist, King David writes that Olam Chesed Yibane, a world of kindness we can build. And that's it, my friends. We can build the world we want to live in. A world built on kindness begins with showing kindness to ourselves. We must treat ourselves as though we are worthy of love and of kindness. Next, we must practice speaking with kindness to those who are closest to us, precisely those people we bump into every single day that we have lots of interactions with. And we can do this by learning to respond and not to react. The question is, can you find ways to be kind to those you disagree with? I believe we can. We can do this when we listen to Hillel, who said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to others." We can do this through prayer and through mindfulness, which can help center us. You know, sometimes it just takes a few deep breaths, and you're better able to avoid anger and anxiety, and you're empowered to think more clearly. And I want to end with this. Integrating acts of kindness is essential to being Jewish. The Genesis story teaches us that God models for us kindness, not merely niceness. Niceness alone will not build the world we desire. Kindness, however, is about showing what we care about and who we care about. And that's why we are committed to building a world of kindness sustained by kindness. Shabbat Shalom.